Today, we are diving into one of the most profound concepts in all of philosophy, Dharma. And we're going to do it by exploring a timeless dialogue that happened on a battlefield, of all places, between a warrior in crisis, Arjuna, and his divine guide, Shri Krishna. Believe me, this isn't just some ancient story, it's practically a blueprint for making the toughest decisions in our own lives. Right off the bat, you can see the problem. This is the core paradox that has Arjuna completely paralyzed. He's being told to let go of the world, but at the same time, he's being told to engage in one of its most extreme actions, fighting a war. So that's the puzzle we're going to unpack. How is it even possible to act without getting tangled up in the results?
So let's just put ourselves right there on the battlefield. Imagine this. Arjuna, maybe the greatest warrior of his time, is all set for the fight of his life. But then he looks across the field and he doesn't see an army of enemies. He sees his family, his cousins, his teachers, his own grand uncle. And in that one moment, his will to fight just evaporates. This isn't a strategic problem anymore. It's a full-blown, soul-crushing moral crisis.
Now, Arjuna's reasoning for not fighting is actually pretty logical when you think about it. He's basically saying, look, our actions are fueled by our emotions, right? And where do those emotions come from? Our relationships. We do things for the people we care about. So if fighting means he has to act against the very people who give his life meaning, well, the whole reason for acting is gone. For him, fighting is a logical impossibility. For Arjuna, it's this really simple chain of events. It all starts with relationships. Those relationships create emotions, and those emotions are what fuel our actions. So if you break that very first link, that personal connection, the whole chain just shatters. There's no emotion, so there's no motivation to act. You know, it's a deeply human way of looking at things, and it's this exact logic that Krishna is about to flip completely on his head.
So how does Krishna even begin to respond to that? Well, he listens to Arjuna's logic, and then he completely reframes the entire debate. He says this isn't about what's logical or illogical, this is about something much, much deeper, the clash between our personal feelings and our higher duty.
Krishna's response is incredibly sharp and direct. He tells Arjuna, your whole argument, your logic, it's flawed. And it's flawed because it's not based on truth, it's based on moha, this blinding emotional attachment. Krishna is basically saying that this attachment is like a thick fog, and it's stopping Arjuna from seeing the situation for what it really is, and understanding what he truly has to do. And here's where you see the two worldviews just collide. Arjuna is completely trapped by what Krishna calls arguments born of attachment. All of his reasoning is tangled up in his personal feelings. But Krishna, he's trying to lift him up to a totally different way of thinking, the knowledge of duty, a kind of truth that exists way beyond our fleeting, changing emotions. Then Krishna establishes this really clear and honestly pretty controversial hierarchy. Duty, he says, is superior to emotion. He argues that our feelings often become the very thing that weakens us and gets in the way of us doing what we know is right. It's a radical idea, right? That our own heart can actually lead us astray. You can imagine this leaves Arjuna completely lost. If he can't trust his feelings, if he can't trust his own relationships, then what is there left to trust? So he asks Krishna for a clear, solid definition. What is this dharma, this duty that I'm supposed to follow above everything else? And then he asks a question that I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. Is there some kind of rule book for life? Who writes it? Who gets to decide what's right and what's wrong in any given situation? Is it society? Is it a holy book? Is it a god? And Krishna's answer is just stunning. He says there is no universal rule book. No one else can tell you what your dharma is. The truth, he explains, is that dharma is radically personal. Every single one of us has to create our own. To really make this point land, Krishna tells a story. He says, imagine a man facing two horrible crises at the exact same time. His village is being attacked by bandits and women are being abducted. And in that very moment, his own father is on his deathbed and uses his last breath to ask for a sip of water. What is he supposed to do? What is his dharma? Should he be a good son and give his father water in his final moments? Or should he be a good citizen and grab a sword to defend his community? There's no easy answer here, and no rule written in some book can solve this for him. And this is where we get Krishna's ultimate definition. Dharma isn't some external rule. It's the path that your own conscience, your deep inner voice, your true self, or Atma, tells you is the right one in that specific, unique situation. The answer isn't out there in the world somewhere. It's within you. Okay, so Dharma is personal, and it's guided by our inner voice. That's a huge realization. But it doesn't really solve Arjuna's paralysis, does it? In fact, it brings us right back to the original problem. Even if you know what the right thing to do is, how do you find the strength to actually do it, especially when the consequences are terrifying? Well, this is where Krishna gives him the how-to. He offers a practical path, a kind of mental technology for how to live your Dharma.
He calls it karma yoga, which is the practice of acting without being attached to the outcome. Think of it like a surgeon who is 100% focused on performing the operation perfectly, not on whether they'll get famous or get sued afterwards. You do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do, and you let the results be what they will be. This isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about being free from that crippling anxiety of what if.
Now, to make this practical, Krishna offers a mental framework. And let's be honest, this is incredibly difficult. Our entire biology is wired to chase pleasure and run from pain, to want victory and fear defeat. Krishna's instruction is to mentally step outside of that whole cycle, to see all these opposites as just temporary waves on the surface of a much deeper ocean. By building this inner stability and acting only from a sense of duty, you anchor yourself in something way more profound than the shifting tides of good or bad fortune.
This quote ties the whole philosophy directly back to Arjuna's crisis right there on the battlefield. Krishna's message is crystal clear. Get your mind into this balanced state and then go fight. If you act from a place of duty, the consequences, no matter how terrible they seem, cannot stain you.
So, in the end, Krishna's guidance to Arjuna really becomes a question for all of us. We all face our own battlefields, our own moral crises, big and small. This ancient wisdom leaves us with a challenge. When you find yourself standing in the middle of your own conflict, what does your inner voice say is your Dharma? And do you have the courage to act on it?